Jerseys of Hope is a nonprofit committed to inspiring a sense of community and well-being in hospitals through the donation of athletic jerseys to be worn by patients rooting for their favorite team. In the past 7 years, Jerseys of Hope has given out over 2,000 jerseys to lift the spirits of hospital patients. They have impacted the needy in 4 countries and 11 states. Please visit jerseysofhope.org to learn more. We're so honored to partner with Jerseys of Hope and be a small part of the large impact they make.
Welcome to the Unscripted Podcast. My name's Corby LaCroix, and the song you're hearing right now is called Great and Mighty One, available on Spotify, iTunes, or wherever you get your music. But for now, recording from the Unscripted studio, here's your host and my friend, Aaron Conrad.
Great Redeemer, God of grace.
Welcome back to Unscripted from Jerseys of Hope Studios here in Hilliard, Ohio. Special guest today was a guest on his podcast. Jeff, can you introduce yourself and we'll go from there?
Yeah, my name's Jeffrey. How's it going, Aaron? Appreciate you having me on for this as well. You know, a little crossover episodes here for the both of us. But yeah, just talked, I think last week or very recently, just about some Cavaliers offseason stuff. I run a YouTube channel with a couple of my buddies called the Cleveland Pulse. You can find us over there. You can find us on Twitter. And yeah, we've been doing that for almost 5 years, almost 5 seasons of Cleveland sports, all the way from the Cavs to the Browns. A little bit of Guardians talk here and there, but yeah, just like anytime I could communicate and kind of connect with a community of other Cleveland sports fans and just fans of the city in general, it's always a win for me. So glad to be here.
Well, man, I was honored to be on yours, and like you said, now you're on mine, so this is fun.
Absolutely.
Little crossover. I like that. I never thought of it that way, but yeah, little crossover episode. So take me to the beginning. You said it already, and I wanted to make sure we got it out at the beginning. You have a great podcast, or on YouTube, on Twitter. Take me to the beginning. Where did that all start?
Yeah, so I think our start really came from just being in COVID, which is where a lot of people started their shows and their podcasts and stuff like that. So It's always interesting to think back on how far we've actually come from that point. But yeah, just me and my buddy, we've always talked sports, even all the way back in high school. So we all went to the same high school. Me and my 2 other co-hosts, we all attended St. Edward High School in Lakewood. So we talked about sports there all the time. I was on the baseball team. My co-host was on the football team, and we both played basketball actually when we were freshmen. So it's been something that me and him have talked about for going on 8 or 9 years here, all the way back to 2014, 2015, just talking sports. And we always kind of kick the idea around like, hey, we should we see other people doing this. We see people making content, and just maybe one day we could get to their level or just even be just our own people on the interwebs. And that's kind of how it started. And the 2020 season, especially for the Cleveland Browns, was really one to remember. And it was just kind of felt like fate that was the year we started it, with going to the playoffs that season and beating the Pittsburgh Steelers in Pittsburgh. So it was couldn't start for a better year with content as far as the Cleveland Browns. But yeah, man, it's just evolved over the years. We started, it was just audio, which was really interesting. And we would just put it up on Spotify, Apple Music, Apple Podcasts and stuff like that. And we didn't even really know what we were doing. But yeah, we've settled over on YouTube, and we'll have long form videos where we talk for 35, 45 minutes about the Cavs or the Browns. And then I'll have some other episodes where it's just a little bit more concentrated. It'll be 8 to 12 minutes of just talking about a specific subject, or maybe a tweet that I came across that kind of caught my eye. So yeah, man, it's changed a lot over the last 4 years, but I'd say for the better.
Well, and I started during COVID too. Same thing. Boredom is not my friend, and so I needed something to do. And so I'm like, hey, let me try a podcast. I don't even know what they are. And we're still going. So let me ask you that. When it comes to podcasting, it's not easy. I've heard this statistic that says there's like 5 million podcasts in the world.
Yep.
And if you've ever recorded more than 10, you're in the top 10%.
Wow. Yeah, that's not surprising, honestly. I think a lot of people think it's easy to just hop on and record a bunch of episodes, but in the market, I feel like is so favored to the top, it's so top heavy where it's very difficult to make your mark, and it's super frustrating if you're not a top 100 podcast. you have a lot of eyeballs that you could be fighting for and a lot of people's attention, but it just doesn't really ever feel like that because it's so dispersed at that point. And it's tough, man. Even getting into the top 100, let alone the top, 10 podcasts in the world is an amazing accomplishment and just something that, I think is what everybody dreams of when they first start a podcast. But you you find your expectations the longer you do it. Like talking Cleveland sports, I could go, I go over to Twitter, I go over to Instagram, and I could see, the Cavs have millions of followers and the Browns have, a couple million followers or whatever the numbers even are. And your audience is unlimited to, who you could tap into from that percentage. But, it's not like you're going to appeal to all sports fans worldwide. So you just have to temper your expectations a little bit.
I think that's so wise what you just said, what you closed with. You got to temper your expectations. So I know, and you're on the YouTube platform, which I've not. Occasionally I'll throw an episode up there, but for the most part, I'm audio only outside of clips, and I'll put some clips up of our interview today. But the stats now, I got to think on the YouTube side, you get pretty good stats. I know from a podcasting audio perspective, they're terrible. You can't. Right. People say, "Oh man, how many people listen to your podcast?" I'm like, "Man, I don't know," because it's just not good. I mean, it's so weird because Google's so good on the like back in the blogging days, you could get up to the minute stats of who's even on your site at that moment. In podcasting, I have not found a good resource yet where you can kind of really dig into who's my audience, where are they, who am I reaching, and so I think to your point, you got to temper your expectation. For me, I just said, you know what, I'm not doing it to stat watch. Like it's never why I have done it. Right. Have you found that too?
So YouTube is actually probably the most, and people don't think of it as social media. I think that YouTube kind of gets grouped into its own little segment, and everybody goes to Twitter and Instagram and TikTok and stuff like that. But I think out of all I put it right into social media. So I think that it's the best social media platform out there. It's my favorite. You're going to have views that hopefully that you could find on any topic that you want. There's a whole, a range of benefits as far as what you can do over on YouTube. Their analytics department is absolutely top tier. I think it's better than Twitter's, and Twitter's going through a revamp right now. So we'll see what they come up with, coming up here in the future. But that was one of the big reasons we switched from audio, because it's like we never even knew how to gauge our audience. And it's not that we wanted to, it was never chasing a numbers game for us. I mean, we still talk about it to this day, that a little part of our motto is that if we had one viewer, we'd still be talking, because we're just two buddies who want to talk Cleveland sports. Right. But yeah, we never knew how many people were listening. We never knew if we would be popping up on, if people that were searching Cleveland sports stuff would even be able to find us. So YouTube has streamlined that a lot for us. You get to see a whole host of data and just advanced analytics over there as far as the age range of the people that watch, which is actually interesting because I think our biggest age range is age 33 to 42 or something like that, which I thought when we first started, I thought it might be a little bit younger, but yeah, you just get to see, how long on average people are watching your videos. What are they clicking on? What other, pages and channels did they come from? So that's an interesting feature too, where you could see what percentage of your audience also watches another YouTube channel or YouTube show. So yeah, I mean, that was our big reason for changing. I think it's very complicated again to even really know how good you're doing unless you're doing in top 1% of the world. Right. Because I would assume that's how I'm not going to be claimed to know the ins and outs of how marketing and how people get paid off a podcast, but I'm assuming that your download numbers are how you get pushed through the algorithms and how people want to make deals based on you. If you have a sponsor, if you're one of these big podcasts, whether you're a comedian or whether you're just in the top of your field as far as sports, entertainment, politics, stuff like that, they're going to want you to do ad reads if you have a percentage of your audience that is downloading your stuff and actually listening to it, whether it be Spotify or Apple Podcasts. So, yeah.
No, you're 100% right. And that's what I tell people all the time, because I think, I left corporate America to do this. People know this listening to the podcast, and people say, well, how do you make money in a podcast? I'm like, you don't. Right. So, the podcast for us is really an on-ramp for the other businesses that we have since started to grow out of that. And to your point, yeah, if I approach a sponsor, their first question is going to be, how many impressions are you getting? Right. Because if I'm going to cut you a check, I need to know that I'm going to get an ROI. It's all about ROI. If I'm not going to get a return on that investment, then why do I? No, I'm not going to give you my money. And everybody wants to be Joe Rogan, right? Like,
for sure.
But we're not. I mean, we're not. And that's to your point.
Tough.
You're lost in this sea of podcasts now. So
that's another thing though with YouTube. Like their creator program is so straightforward. Like I feel like nobody has really integrated like that. Twitter, like I said, is trying. Like they actually have parameters out there now that you could fulfill and you could be a part of their, earning program. But there's nothing like on the creator side of the podcast apps, at least we used 4 years ago, a long time. A lot has probably changed. There's probably more, in-depth ways to look at it now. But when you start a YouTube channel, it's very straightforward. You need this many, I don't even remember actually what it is, but you need 1,000 subscribers and you need X amount of watch hours.
Right.
And then you're in. Yeah. So it took us 3.5 full years to get monetized, and we haven't even been monetized for a year. But it's like at least you have a tangible goal where if you're trying to make sure you build your audience and that you reach them, more people weekly or monthly or whatever you're looking to do, it's like YouTube was always that page on your YouTube channel is always there to check your progress. Where if you're just uploading stuff on Apple Podcasts, it just kind of felt like we were sitting down to record it, but at the end of the day, we didn't really know what kind of impact or reach we were making. And we still uploaded on podcasting sites even after we switched to video, but we just kind of got away from it because we didn't really see the benefit of it. And we just didn't think that we're both like animated individuals. So we thought video was our best route too. That's part of it.
Well, you both have a good look too. I mean, that's everything,
Right. Thank you.
I have a face for radio, so I don't really need to be on video too much. I don't like to be on video.
But you got a nice setup though. Like you say that you have like a nice backdrop, like for podcasting, like the studio's nice. So
well,
I mean, it's all just what you put into it.
Right. Well, the studio looks nice. It's the guy in front of the mic that does it. So, but hopefully people are still listening because I know we're nerding out a little bit talking about this stuff, but it is interesting because I think there's a lot of misunderstanding about podcasting and just that whole thing. So let me ask you this too. So everything is video. You guys can you put an audio up on video as a podcast, or does it have to be video? We
do everything video. We do everything. Yeah. We just do everything like hop on StreamYards like me and you did last week. And yeah, I mean, that's what, and finally, I think Twitter got to that point too, where the only reason I pay for Twitter Premium or whatever the upgraded version is over there is because you can only upload so many seconds of video if you're just on if you're just on Twitter free. So I upload our full videos up over there sometimes, 20, 30-minute videos. I'll just put it up on our Twitter page and just see what the reaction is, see how the market kind of looks over there, and to tweet out highlight clips and stuff like that. And that's the stuff that brings a lot of traction to your page. Like I'll go back and find, like I found the starting lineup introductions for LeBron's first game back after he came home, and that did like 150,000 impressions over on Twitter, because just the nostalgia sells good everywhere, but specifically on when you're just scrolling through Twitter.
Absolutely. All right. Where can they find you? What are the addresses, just so we can get that too?
Yeah, if you just on YouTube, it's just the Cleveland Pulse, and then you probably could just type that into Twitter too, and we'll come up. But I believe our @ over on Twitter is @Pulse Cleveland. So anything Cleveland Pulse related, we're going to show up on Twitter and YouTube.
Okay. So you said you were a pitcher, you said you were a baseball player in high school.
Yeah,
what position?
I was a pitcher. Yep.
You're a pitcher. You're a pitcher. What was your favorite pitch?
Fastball.
Where were you sitting?
4-seam fastball. I was on the varsity team as a sophomore at St. Ed's very briefly. I played JV for a couple of games at the end of the season when I was a freshman. And then my junior year going into my senior year, we were in my summer league, actually, we were at Miami University of Ohio, and they had a little radar square out in the outfield for their radar. Yeah. And it was that's just incentive enough to try to pump 100%. The numbers up, but nothing out of the ordinary, too severe. I think I topped out like 86, 87 for a lot of my best metrics. And especially that day at Miami, that stands out to me just in my memories of like one of my favorite days pitching ever because of that. It was a nice day. They have a beautiful field. Right. It was summer. Yeah. So all the good variables were going my way.
100%. Yeah. I mean, all that stuff, because my son's was a pitcher as well. And yeah, man, you get on that hot turf one day.
Oh yeah.
You got a radar gun on the outside.
Yep.
Guys sitting behind the backstop with guns in hand, you know, so you find a little extra. You find a little extra in the tank on those days. So.
Absolutely.
Very cool. You said you played basketball. What position you played basketball?
I was a point guard when I was a freshman. Not very good. Not very good at all. Just a bench morale guy. You know, they had to keep me around because I would knew what was going on. Like my IQ was basketball IQ was to the point where I was just serviceable enough in practice to give the first team real looks. I think that's why they kept me around. But freshman basketball was one of the best years of my life. Just some of the people I met when I was a freshman, even through one of my buddies, I talked to him every day. He was my best man in my wedding actually last year. He didn't even make the team, but we met in tryouts.
Right.
And then everybody I still talk to, basically from high school going on 9 or 10 years, we all tried out, and some of us played freshman basketball at St. Ed's, and I think that was 2014, 2015. So my co-host Justin, one of my other groomsmen, his name is Bennett. We all played freshman basketball together at St. Ed. So that's where a lot of my friendships really started. And then my sophomore year, they cut me, and it was probably one of the biggest blessings in disguise because I made the varsity team as a sophomore for baseball. So I was doing both my freshman year, and I wasn't really great at either. And then after I got cut my sophomore year from basketball, all I did was focus on baseball, and it worked out for the better.
Yeah, I've always heard that. I heard a quote one time that said something like, the way you play basketball is the way that you are in life. And I just ruined that quote. But is that true? Here's what I think, because you said you're a point guard, right? And so you're a person, just the little I've known you here the last, 2-3 weeks, you're a personable guy. You're engaging. You know what I mean? You seem to help other people.
I do like to try to I feel like I'm just a leader too, trying to be what a point guard is, setting up the offense. I'm not gonna that's a good point when I think about it like that. I'm not always gonna score and have the flashy play on the back end, but I think I'm decent enough at setting the groundwork for what could be in the future. But yeah, that's interesting because the highlight of my freshman basketball career was, so we're at St. Ignatius playing their freshman team, and this is deep into the season, and our coach calls a timeout. I'm on the bench. He tells me I'm subbing in, and in the huddle, he draws up a play for me.
Like Deli on an inbound.
This has never happened before. I'm coming off a screen, and I'm taking a shot. He's like, all right, you're going to do this. And it's a close game, freshman Holy War. The stadium is packed. The arena at St. Ignatius is packed. And I come off this, executed perfectly. I come off this screen, and the inbounder passed me the ball. The ball goes right through my hands, and it goes out of bounds right in front of St. Ignatius' student section. No. Oh, my gosh. Yeah, you think I got to play, I never saw another play the rest of the year. But thinking back on it, at some degree, I'm like, this dude was just seeing if I was ready to go. And
you had the goods. Yeah.
I executed what was going on, but I just couldn't finish the end of the play.
So we just had a little audio issue, but yeah. So you lost it to Saint. Who was it?
St. Ignatius. Yeah.
St. Ignatius.
And we ended up losing that game too. But
that's fine. That's fine.
Yeah.
And remember, it made you better.
Yeah, it did. And you're out there, and it's the fundamentals of the game are just being learned. So that's what I feel like you always remember from those days. And just, you're not, you're barely playing basketball. You're playing more fundamental basketball than what you see at a lot of the higher levels, especially today. But it's just because the coach only has so much talent to work with. You have to run sets. You have to have an offensive identity, and they expected a lot from us, knowing what was going on. So it teaches you better life lessons than actual athletic lessons at that age.
It's so interesting too, because my son he went to college for baseball. So he did both all the way through high school, but he ended up playing baseball in college, not basketball. But his friends that he made throughout both of those growing up, they're still friends this day. They've all graduated from college now, but they have a last night we were texting about Caitlin Clark, because she's had a great game last night. And he said, Yeah, I've got her in my WNBA fantasy team.
Oh, wow. He's really into it.
And then they got the new, what's the new college football game?
Yeah, NCAA 25.
Yeah, so they all picked like some of the worst teams so they could have an equal playing field, and I don't know if you do that too, but he's got UNLV. And so now, like, he walked into dinner the other night. We met him up for dinner and he walked in with a UNLV shirt on.
He's committed.
I love that so much.
He's committed.
But it's all his high school guys. And I love that they're very, they're all still really close, and they have been for all these years. You really create those cool relationships, back to the point about, who you are in the court and those kind of things. Very cool. Okay. So Cleveland fandom, when was the earliest Cleveland sports memory that you can think of?
Oh, the ones that pop out are definitely the 2007 NBA Finals. There's years before that though, because they're mostly Cleveland Indians related back then, especially some of those middle of 2000s teams. I remember I was a Boy Scout when I was younger. I remember camping with my dad in somewhere, I don't even remember what city, but some northeastern Ohio city. And we had this is just funny how much even technology has came from there, but we had just a little radio. We were camping, and it was Fausto Carmona pitching against the Yankees in the playoffs when there were all the bugs on the field.
Oh, the midges.
Right?
The
midge game. So that stands out.
Jabba
really.
Chamberlain.
Yep. That game stands out really at the top of my mind. And then, ever since I could remember, like, being able to, like, walk, I feel like it's just been Cleveland sports. And it's funny because my dad, he ran track and field. Like, he ran track and field at St. Ed's, and he was a good athlete, but he never played basketball or baseball. Like, my mom wasn't very athletic. But it was always like the family thing was just to be watching something Cleveland sports related, whether it was the Browns or it was mostly the Indians, just because they were on so much. It's just like so much of my life, just remembering like my time living with my parents was like, we ate dinner, watched the baseball game, and went to bed. Right. That was a lot of it. And, some of those times are the best memories outside of 2016, little bit of hiccup there, even though that was the most fun year to watch until the World Series. But some of those games at the back end were tough to swallow.
What a year that was for sports too, because my son was the same way. I think I indoctrinated them into all my favorite teams. And so, for that year you had LeBron in the finals.
Yep.
Carolina, unfortunately, had a heartbreaking loss to Villanova, which they still show on the montage.
Okay.
The last shot of the game, because we didn't guard the inbounder, but that's fine. But no, that was so all of our favorite teams outside of football were in the biggest stage. The Indians were in the World Series, the Cavs were in the finals, and the Tar Heels played for the championship game. 2 out of 3. Oh, actually 1 out of 3 won. And that one took a 3-1. That one took a 3-1 miracle. But hey, it was still fun. It was a great year. And if my football team would have made it, which the Raiders will probably never make it back there. But so what's your favorite Browns memory?
Oh, well, recently this playoff win against the Steelers. Last year was just so good with all the different quarterbacks and still being able to win 11 games.
What's his name?
Flacco.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was good. A lot of my best memories kind of revolve around that Baker Mayfield era, because that's when the franchise somewhat became competent, even though I was a strong proponent of moving on from him. So it's just some mixed emotions there. When we acquired Jarvis Landry from the Dolphins, there's some really good memories and just stuff that stands out to me, because that first year we had him, we were on Hard Knocks, and he's like just in there just being a boss and just telling everybody like, nobody's really serious here. Like, I'm coming in here to like show people how to really run an organization from a player perspective. Just so many bad memories, obviously, too. So many, just the wide receivers too. You're like, oh, the Browns drafted a wide receiver, like he's going to be good. And then it's like, nope, that's just like Braylon Edwards, like, Johnny Manziel, like best college football player ever, not very good. And every head coach that seems to be just like the most competent individual after they leave Cleveland,
right?
Belichick, Saban, we got that one year with Kyle Shanahan and a couple other guys.
The guy from Miami. Miami. What's his name?
Yeah. His name is evading me right now too.
Like all those guys, all
Mike
the good
McDaniels. Yeah.
they're all like, they're all famous somewhere else.
But I don't remember what season it was. I think it was 2000. I think it was in the 2010s, early 2010s. Derek Anderson was our quarterback. And we were, the only reason I know is because I believe we were 10-6 that year and missed the playoffs.
Yes.
And it's like, if you're 10-6 in this NFL, in this AFC, you're contending for the 1 seed.
Yeah.
At this point. And I was so sick to my stomach. So I'm pretty sure every other team in our division, I'm pretty sure the Ravens had a better record than us. The Steelers had a better record than us. And I think the Bengals might have had a similar record than us. And they had a tiebreaker, something weird. The AFC was they had a lot of teams with high wins that year. But yeah, I mean, the Browns memories and fandom has really picked up here in the last half decade. So it's been good.
Well, and you feel good about this year, right?
Absolutely. I think you're still going to have some stuff to iron out here, but I have them. I believe in the Cleveland Browns front office the most out of any other team in the city.
Really?
So that's what they've shown me the most competence the last 3 years. And a lot of that stuff is pending. You know, a lot of it's going to be hindsight's 2020, especially at the quarterback position. But I just think they're the team, and my most recent upload over on the Pulse was actually about this, where you have to have the 3 factors of an owner that wants to spend. They have that. A front office that wants to acquire talent. They have that as well. And a coaching staff that can implement the talent the best way possible. And with Kevin Stefanski being a 2-time coach of the year, they have all 3 of those things. And you've kind of seen the other 2 major sports franchises sputter with that trio. The Dolans don't want to spend money, so it's kind of tough when that's 1A to me. If your owner doesn't really care, I feel like it's tough to be a competent sports franchise. And then I don't know, I just feel like the coaching staff, obviously with the Cavs, has had turnover, and their front office, I don't know if the Donovan Mitchell move gives them a lot of points, but I don't know if they've done everything in their power since acquiring him to maximize what this team could be. So we'll have to wait and see.
We will, and we will have lots to talk about. I have a feeling. I don't know if they're done yet. I have a feeling because both the other thing that you got to have, and I think this goes into your ownership group, as you said, you got to have assets,
right?
And the Browns have a ton. I think. I mean, they've used quite a few, but they still have a ton. The Cavs gave up a lot to get Mitchell, but I think they're still sitting on a few tradable pieces, at least some assets. So that when you don't have any of that and you're at cap space, man, it gets very difficult to compete. All right, last question for you. This is a hot topic in Cleveland right now.
Okay.
Do you like Brook Park, or you want them to renovate the stadium?
I'm 100% on board for Brook Park.
It's pretty sweet looking.
It's just like I'm totally removed from like it does look good. The campus is a good idea. Logistically I feel like logistically it's a nightmare either way. Like if you're gonna upgrade the pre-existing facilities, however you slice that situation, like there's going to be taxpayers involved and whatever on that side of it, however you want to think about that. But it's just like nobody has really cared about a Cleveland sports team like this. And I'm not going to sit here and tell you that the Haslam family and Jimmy Haslam are like the greatest people to like ever walk the earth. Like that's not the case, but they care about what the future of that sporting team looks like, even though it's not in Cleveland. Like other major sports cities, they don't all play in the major sports city. Like it's not like Kansas City's, right there. And there's other teams that are also in that same boat. And if you want to just have a venue that's an actual true like venue in the city, in the area, in the region, even though it is in Brook Park, that's going to be your best bet. If you want to host a Super Bowl, if you want to do other events outside of sports in the future. And they don't do anything else in Cleveland. So it's very, I get the sentiment from fans like, oh, they're the Cleveland Browns. Like, why are you moving them away from the city? And that's the fan base out of everybody in major sports that gets and has the right to really question the ownership, considering Art Modell it's already been moved. Right. So I get you're skittish and you're like, you don't really know what's going on and you don't really know if you trust the Haslams, but they don't do anything else in Cleveland. training camp. Their facilities are in Berea. They had training camp and OTAs or whatever they're called this year in Greenbrier, West Virginia. Like, they don't do anything else down there besides play 7 or 8 home games a year. And there's a couple of concerts maybe.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm fully on board with it. I think it's the best thing for the region and the sporting team for the future.
I think it goes far beyond football too. Like, how many times, and that's the thing, anytime I see some major event, and there's been so many of them at Jerry's World, and every time I'm like, man, they've probably paid that place off tenfold by now.
Absolutely.
Because when he built it, he was nuts and it was so big and blah, blah, blah. Man, they've had Final Fours. They've had Super Bowls. They've had huge concerts. They've had so many things. It seems like every major large venue event is a Jerry's World.
Yep.
The college playoff, right?
If you're saying no to this, you also are saying, like, if you're saying that you're on the side that wants to just renovate what's new, you're openly admitting that you don't want the nicest, newest arena in all of sports.
Right.
And I can't get over that part either.
Yeah. And the amount of revenue that will bring to the city.
Yep.
And, they're not moving to Akron. I mean, it's not that. I think I loved how they positioned one of the renderings where you could still see downtown kind of in the like, hey, we're not that far away. Like, I love that rendering. Whoever did that, shout out to them, because it was pretty funny. It was like, they made it look like it was just down the street, and it's, I don't know, but it is. I mean, it's, what is it? 15 miles, 20 miles. I don't know how far.
Literally.
It's not that far. It's not that far. Plus, it's by the airport, which is pretty cool. Like you said, logistically, that might be a little bit of a nightmare, but there are some adult venues that might be put out of business on Brook Park. Is that still true? Because that was what Brook Park Road was best known for, was some adult facilities.
Yeah, it could be. But that's I grew up 10 or 15 minutes from where that's going to go. So, like, that area is like basically where a lot of where I've known in life is that area by the airport and in between over right there. And it's not that far from downtown. It's maybe 20 minutes from downtown,
and
25 minutes.
Right. Freeway.
Yep.
Yeah. Yep. Now, did you attend those adult venues, or, I mean, you said you spent, no. Okay. Yeah,
no.
Right. That's a different. All right. Moving on.
That's a different episode.
Man, this has been a lot of fun. It's been great to get to know you. I look forward to I think we'll do more of this.
Absolutely.
It's been a lot of fun, and appreciate you coming on. I was honored to be on yours. And so, everybody, where can they check it out one more time?
Yeah, we're just the Cleveland Pulse. Go and type us in YouTube, type us over in on Twitter, and you'll see our logo. TCP is our logo, and got gold accents on our profile picture. So, yeah, covering the Cavs, covering the Browns, and it's going to get real interesting here for both teams, coming up in the near future. So we're glad to have you. Yeah, the Guardians.
We all keep forgetting about the Guardians.
The Guardians I watch kind of in silence and don't report on it because my whole life is baseball, and I'm like, I've thought baseball my whole life. I don't fire up the camera and talk about it. I could, but they're kind of the team I just enjoy as a fan, and I don't have to be an analyst, a contrarian, and all these other things with it. Yeah.
I actually might have fired up Google this morning to maybe get some merch. I mean, I already have the hat, but I hate their logo and stuff. I really like. Anyway, that's a whole nother discussion. But
it's not good.
But I do like the City League uniforms. I did not like the pricing of the said uniforms.
Yep.
It's really expensive.
That'll happen.
I don't make that much on a podcast. So, all right, brother, this has been a lot of fun. Everybody, go give them a follow, give them a watch, especially if you're a Cleveland fan. Give them a lot of love, and man, we'll do this again. This is a lot of fun.
Absolutely.
Thanks, bro.
Thanks.
Thanks for joining us for another episode of the Unscripted Podcast with your host, Aaron Conrad, from his studio in Old Hilliard. Make sure to like, share, follow, and review on your favorite podcast platforms. Also, make sure to check out my song Great and Mighty One on Spotify, iTunes, or wherever you find your music. We'll see you next time on Unscripted with Aaron Conrad.